Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Mixed Martial Arts channel. We are here today for the prediction video for Imavov versus Adesanya, or Adesanya versus Imavov, UFC in Riyadh. We have a really stacked fight night here. Obviously, as some of you may know, UFC 312 in the following week is one of the worst looking pay-per-views we've seen in a while, but this is one of the best looking fight nights that we've seen in a while too. Ironically, probably one of the best fight nights we've seen since just the last time we went to Saudi Arabia. So, you know, it looks like they really enjoy putting stacked cards on this time. Last time, I believe it was Whittaker versus Hamzat, which became Whittaker versus Aliskerov, which was still a really good card even without Hamzat there. But I am here to give you my predictions for the full card. It's a bit of a shorter one today on the 11 fights. A couple of them got cancelled. So, as I say at the beginning of every breakdown and prediction, we're going to start with the main event, make our way down to the very final, or very first, as it will be when you watch it, prelim of the night. And from the top, I've got a lot to say. There's going to be plenty of very somewhat knowledgeable predictions. I might still be wrong, but I'm basing it off a lot of, I guess you would call it research and just experience and watching these guys fight. And the closer we get to the bottom, the less I'm going to know about the guys I'm talking about, and the more unintelligible the predictions will become, and the less likely I would say you should be to take it as betting advice. So let's jump straight into it, shall we? We'll start with the main event of Israel Adesanya versus, I forgot how to say his name, Nassourdine Imavov. So in my eyes, the biggest differences in this fight are going to be the age and reach advantages. So one of them goes to Israel, and that's going to be the reach advantage, with him having 5 inches more reach than Imavov does with 80, and Imavov's only got 75. But the age advantage is, I believe, 6 years, could be 7 years for Imavov. He's only 28 years old, whereas Izzy is 35, turning 36 soon. So that's going to be the biggest things I want to talk about in terms of their tailor the tape, I guess, as you'd call it. Everything else is relatively similar. They're about the same height. They have somewhat similar records, about 24-4. Oh no, 15-4. But in the UFC, 7-2 for Imavov, and Izzy is 13-4. So actually very similar in terms of their win percentage in the UFC. But there is some things I want to point out about their fight styles, their previous opponents, and yada yada yada, so we're going to jump straight into that. First thing I'll mention is their recent careers. So, Izzy has had a rough recent couple of years. Now, a lot of people would argue, and I would maybe be one of those people, but I also have not been a fan of the sport long enough to have been really around during these times, as much as I just know about it now, in the post of these events. Izzy, in hindsight, didn't look great in a lot of his title defenses, okay? Now, he's got a lot of losses recently, and that's just an obvious thing to point out. Like, he lost a lot of fights. He got finished in a couple of fights too. But I think the bigger thing to point out here is that while he looked a bit better recently, and there's been certainly an improvement in Izzy's, I don't know, maybe just grit and wanting to chase the fight in his last fight with Dricus. Prior to that, and I guess in the Pereira fight too, prior to that, there's a lot of fights there that people would have maybe previously called somewhat of domination from Izzy that probably aren't really that good. So the things that I would point that out as is obviously the Romero fight is an obvious one that everybody understands, but then he went back to back with that and the Costa fight, which probably won a lot of fans back. However, he did grow a boob in his camp with that fight, but that's neither here nor there. He then goes up and loses to Blachowicz, which was a bit of an unfortunate bump in the road, but that one is very understandable and kind of granted for him because he went up a weight class, wasn't big enough. He'd come in at like 190 pounds or something. He didn't actually 194 or something. He didn't even make the weight limit because he doesn't even cut that much weight to make 185, or previously at this time he didn't. So that one's kind of okay. The Vettori fight, a lot of people would say was a bit of a domination, and I would probably agree. Not one of the most insane fights, but not one of the worst, that's for sure. However, in the Robert Whittaker fight, the rematch, people would say that he lost that fight. And that is also, as I said earlier, neither here nor there, just wanting to point these things out and give you some things to consider when making your predictions or coming to your final conclusion on things based on the predictions of people like myself that you're watching YouTube videos of. And then he followed that up with the Cannonier fight, which was incredibly boring. Incredibly boring, okay? And then he comes off at the Cannonier fight and loses to Pereira. Now, he was beating Pereira in that fight, and he was literally like 3 minutes away from beating Pereira by a decision. But then he gets finished by Pereira. Whether you think it's a controversial finishing sequence or not, I disagree. That's something that I'm pretty stone on. Izzy was getting pretty fucked up by Pereira. He tripped over in the midst of that finishing sequence and ate like 6 or 7 unanswered shots in that final flurry where he gets hit a couple times and the ref steps in between them. So that to me is very granted. So that's the kind of weird period of Izzy's career where people would be like, what the fuck's going on? Then he kind of comes back and just decides to KO Pereira. Now, people might say this is because of the weight cut. People might say that this was because of, well, the weight cut, but because Pereira simply wasn't the right size for the division, and he just was never healthy in that division in the first place, which is possibly true. But I would also argue that Pereira made the same type of weight cut for the first fight, and that was literally like 6 months earlier. So what real difference was there? Now, he gets that knockout, and this is the real moment where Izzy's career kind of is, he has the opportunity to really turn it around. Then he goes on to have one of the most shameful performances in his career against Sean Strickland. That one is just, to me, that was where I saw Israel Adesanya die. That's where I saw his talent just disintegrate into thin air and just become absolutely non-existent. A lot of people might think that's because Strickland is just ridiculously good at what he does, and that is style that is, styles make fights, and that is perfect for Izzy. It's the perfect way to combat Izzy's fight style. But at the end of the day, he looked really bad in the fight, and at no point in that fight did he decide to grit down and search for a knockout in the 4th or 5th round because he knew he needed it. He just let the fight slip away and didn't really have anything to say about it. And then he decided to come back against Dricus, coming off a title fight loss, coming off 2 title fight losses in his last 3 fights. So, again, whether that's a fight style thing or not, that's just a moral thing that I have an issue with, that I think that Izzy really should have. I can't really blame him. I don't see why he would ever be like, you know what, no, I'm not going to take this title fight opportunity, I'm going to go fight a contender. Of course he was going to take it, but it's kind of just disgusting that he was in a position that was being offered to him, that he was capable of that, the UFC were willing to give him that leg up, and then he lost and he got choked out. So he looked better in that Dricus fight. That's what I want to talk about. This was a very much rejuvenation of Izzy, and I'd argue this is even more of a rejuvenation than it was in the Pereira rematch, because the Pereira rematch, he kind of just forced himself into a position where he could get a lucky KO. Right? Well, I'd say lucky, but it's lucky because of how precise he had to be with it. Like, he could have very easily set that KO up and then missed and then been stuck up against the cage with Pereira teeing off on him, but he was willing to play possum and get Pereira really excited and overzealous with his engagements and then catch him. In the Dricus fight, though, it was a bit more of he genuinely just looked better, and he genuinely just was performing better throughout those rounds. Now, he still did lose a round to Dricus, I believe. I think it was 2-1 to Adesanya going into that 4th round, and then he got choked out by Dricus in the 4th round. So, to me, Izzy's career has had somewhat of a revival recently, but I don't think he's going to get any better, and he is getting quite old. And I feel like he doesn't have the same steam in the engine that the Dricus fight was pretty much the final opportunity for him to have something to fuel him. This is just fighting Imavov now, just a contender fight. It's not for a title. It's the first time he hasn't been in a title fight since 2019 when he fought Anderson Silva. So this is going to be a very different situation for Adesanya. There's going to be very different motivations behind it, and that doesn't give me much faith in him. Now, if we want to look at Imavov's recent career, it's also had its moments of weirdness, I will admit. So, first of all, when he got into the UFC, he lost the decision to Phil Hawes, which is fucking abysmal, and that is one of the worst things you could ever have on your record, is a loss to Phil Hawes. So, shame on you, Imavov. You got to deal with that for the rest of your career. But after that, he goes on to go finish, and then beats Buckley in a decision. And then he gets the Sean Strickland fight. Now, this is interesting, and I will come back to this in a moment. We're going to move on past it, and I will circle back to the Strickland fight because I want to talk about that and compare his Strickland performance to Adesanya's Strickland performance. Chris Curtis, however, was another weird fight. They had a clash of heads, and then the fight, ended in a no contest. kind of shit. Then the Roman Dolidze fight happens, okay? And he kind of just fucking mauls Dolidze, alright? And this was all last year. He was quite active last year. He had 3 fights. Mauled Dolidze, goes on to fight Cannonier, has a bit of a weird back and forth with Cannonier. I just rewatched this fight and I was kind of surprised with how much I misremembered it. I felt like I remembered this fight being a lot more clear for Imavov, but it wasn't. Cannonier was arguably winning the fight before the finish. Imavov was building pressure and momentum and starting to sort of keep his snappiness and power later on in the fight when Cannonier was not, but that wasn't really what mattered. What mattered was that he finished Cannonier. Arguably weird finish. Early stoppage from the referee is certainly a warranted opinion to have, but Cannonier was probably about to get fucked up, and this fight led Cannonier to be brutally fucked up in his next fight. So, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it. You got to choose. And Cannonier, unfortunately, got fucking brutalized by Caio Borralho in his next fight because of this stoppage being somewhat controversial and forcing the referee to be scared to step in there when Cannonier was hurt. And he was literally dead against Caio Borralho, so... Then he has the Brendan Allen fight, and this one from memory was also quite weird. He did way better than Brendan Allen on the feet at pretty much all times, from what I recall. But he did get taken down by Brendan Allen a fair bit. When Brendan got on top of him, he did essentially nothing. It was a lot of laying, a lot of just meh activity, but it showed that there is a level of grappling holes, I guess, in Imavov's game. Now, it's not necessarily something that's been clearly exposed, and it's not something that that I am led to believe that he has the ability to, or that he has the capabilities of being exposed in again, especially not against an Adesanya, but it's something to note. So, let's talk about the Sean Strickland performance. So, I would argue that there is big differences in these two guys' fight styles. There's a lot of similarities in these two guys' fight styles, Imavov and Adesanya, just with a couple of slight tinges, which I'm going to use as my main point of my prediction. But the Strickland performances are interesting. And I'd say this because Izzy looked kind of just worn out throughout that Strickland fight. Very just no longer caring. He's been demoralized, essentially, and he didn't have the willpower to continue the same way. I don't think that's what we saw happen in the Imavov and Strickland fight. Now, you could argue it was a different Strickland he fought at the time. There wasn't the same motivation behind it the way that Strickland had when he was fighting Izzy. But they both did struggle in the sense of the cardio from Strickland, as everyone does, but allow me to just point it out. The cardio from Strickland, the output from Strickland, and just kind of building on you. Now, from memory, I'm going to pull up the numbers here. I feel like there was a kind of somewhat of a comeback from Imavov in that last round against Strickland. So I could be wrong, but I do want to double check this. Yes, he won the 5th round against Sean Strickland, or based on strikes, it looks as though he would have. So that's very different to the Adesanya versus Strickland fight. Now, it looks like Imavov arguably may have been close in the first 2 rounds of Strickland as well, but I believe it was a pretty clear Strickland performance. The 49-46 is across the board, except for one's 48-47. So yeah, I'm guessing that mostly it was just the 5th round being given to Imavov, and the 2nd round was quite close. So I'm guessing the 2nd round may have been given to Imavov too, because he's got more power than Strickland. So that would, if they had similar strikes, I could see Imavov being favoured for that by looking more powerful and more damaging. Now, that is what I want to say about the difference in these two guys' fight styles. They're both long, rangy, and they both can succumb to pressure. That's something that's true. They both can be outworked to a degree. But I don't think that Izzy is going to be the one to pressure and try and outwork Imavov, which does lend in Imavov's favour, because he can do quite well when he gets to pressure you. Now, that being said, Izzy does very well when he gets to choose his shots. He does very well when he gets to let you kind of feel like you're controlling the dance, and then pick his moments and strike when he finds the most precise openings. That's also something that Imavov is very good at too. Really clean shots just when he sees the openings. Again, a similarity is that. And the difference in the similarity is power. I just see a much more divisive power edge toward. I see the power edge being much more divisively swayed towards Imavov having the finishing capability, which I don't see Izzy having anywhere near as much of. Izzy has very good counters. He can develop power based on that, but he is frail and skinny, and he doesn't have a lot of pop based on his body and his body composition and his just the way that he is built. Okay, it's a lot more of him being good with angles, being good with the precision, and knowing where to place his shots. And like I'm saying, Imavov is good at that too, but I would give Izzy the edge on the precision and placing of shots and counters. But I would say that Imavov's power edge leads me to believe that if we're going to be in a battle where either A, Imavov gets to choose he wants the pressure, or B, they neither of them choose the pressure and they both kind of want to have a not necessarily point fight, but a pick and choose shots looking for the right openings kind of battle, I feel like Imavov is the only one that I see having the capability of getting a finish that way. Now, I could 100% see an Israel Adesanya decision win. That's something that if he's able to work Imavov down a bit and get Imavov to not have the same level of output like I'm seeing that Imavov is capable of doing against Sean Strickland in the 5th round, which is hard to do. Strickland gets very good late in the fights. He got better as he went on in the Izzy fight, and he got better at the end of the Dricus fight after he kind of had his time to work Dricus out, came back in that 5th round. But I just feel as though Imavov's ability to last the full fight may give me doubts whether he could win a decision. Now, I still think he could, but I am going to say if it goes to a decision, I would edge it towards Adesanya. I feel like, especially based on scorecards, Izzy's fight style favors judges. It gives much more capability of being not biased, but being swayed in one direction without it actually being the performance that sways you. It's just the way the performance looks that would sway you in that direction. Izzy's really good at that. He's really good at, you could always say the commentary is biased towards Izzy, but we're in fucking Riyadh right now for this card, so this is not going to be American judges. There might be some, but like, you know what I mean? They're going to be different judges to like the Las Vegas judges. So I'm not worried about it being judges that like Izzy. I'm just worried about it being Izzy's fight style does still lend itself to looking good to judges, because even shots that he doesn't land that well, that even like leg kicks that get checked and stuff like that, Izzy has a way of making them look good. He has a way of making it look like they landed, or even if they didn't land, that it's like, well, it didn't get blocked, when it kind of did. He can make a checked leg kick look like it was just a light leg kick. It didn't land to its fullest extent, but it wasn't like I got nullified, when in fact he did get nullified by having his leg kick checked. So I'm going to say that I think Imavov has the ability, like I said, to, if they're going to play the counter game with one another, and they're going to have a bit of a power off and a bit of a stand in the middle and put your dick on the table, and if Imavov, like I said, he could pressure him, and that could be the way Imavov wins, by just kind of building on Izzy, and Izzy not really having the capability of deciding to impose his own will and his own output, because it's just not what he's good at doing on the feet, unless he's fighting someone that's not conventionally a striker, like, I don't know, maybe a Dricus or something like that, you know. But I do see this being a Imavov finish, and it certainly could be a grappling, if we are to go grappling, and that's something that I also feel like Imavov would do if he's losing a decision. I could certainly see Imavov in the 4th and 5th round deciding, fuck it, I'm going to try and choke this guy out. I don't think Imavov has any submissions on his record. He has four submissions, but not in the UFC, right? He has no submissions in the UFC, no. He's got a rear naked, a Bravo choke, and a rear naked, and another submission, or key lock before he came into the UFC. So they were all pre-UFC. Since he's got the UFC, he's only gotten KOs and TKOs and decision wins, which is why I'm saying this fight could certainly be a decision. But it does lead me to want to pick Izzy for a decision. But that's not going to be my overall pick. My overall pick is going to be Nassourdine Imavov. I'm going to say that I feel like he just overworks Izzy, and maybe either A, pressures on Izzy and just kind of gets Izzy too hurt, covers up, maybe Izzy falls to the mat and gets ground and pounded. Not brutally, I don't see Izzy getting knocked out in that sense. However, I could see Izzy getting, if it's not knocked out, it's very rocked and being put on his butt by a really solid Imavov right hand or a really solid Imavov head kick, which we've seen him use unconventionally. I don't know if it would be just a normal head kick. That's something I'd say Izzy's probably much better at than Imavov. But like, think of the Delidze fight where Imavov is just able to whip up a head kick in a weird place. If they get into those kind of weird scrambles where Izzy's a bit like, even if he's not that hurt, but he's in a shelling kind of ultra defense mode where he's doing almost anything and putting himself in precarious positions to try and back out of this bad opportunity that is presenting to Imavov, he could get caught with something unconventional like that. But my prediction is going to be a solid right hand, either rocks Izzy and pushes him to the mat, leading him to get TKO'd by ground and pound, or it could be a really big right hand that hurts Izzy, and then Imavov follows up with just general strikes to the head. He's got good just overall upstairs strikes, but I feel like that right hand is going to be really good at Imavov. I'm going to say when it would happen. If it gets to the end of the fight, like I said, I don't see it being that possible for Imavov. I would guess the third round is probably pretty likely. So we're going to go ahead and say KO/TKO from Imavov in the third round. Okay, moving on to the co-main event. So we have Shara Bullet versus Michael Venom Page. Now, for this fight, this is going to be a very interesting one. There's a couple of things that make this a bit of a weird matchup. Stylistically, however, this is a very, very interesting dick measuring contest, is what I'm going to call this, because they are probably going to have the exact same path to victory over one another to a degree. There's going to be different ways that I would see the victory coming to fruition. However, they're going to fight in the same way, at least at the start of the fight, that's for sure. So let's just talk about statistics really quickly. So there is pretty much an identical height for them. 6'2" versus for Shara Bullet versus 6'3" for MVP. However, there's a big discrepancy in two areas, same as it is in the main event of this event: the age and reach. So again, it's the same as the main event as well, in the sense that one person has a great height advantage, reach advantage, but they're very old. The other guy has a good age advantage, but he's got shitty reach. So Shara Bullet is 30 years old, okay? MVP is 37, all right? However, Shara Bullet's reach is 73 inches, okay? That's an inch less than his height. I have a pretty much blanket rule. If your reach is not at least 1 or 2 inches higher than your height, it's not good. That's full stop, okay? If it is at your height, it's not great at all, but it is passable because it is simply just the same as your height. If you have less reach than your height, bad genetics and overall just not good for your fight style. If you're going to be a striker, that's for sure. Maybe if you're going to be a grappler, it could be in your it could be an advantage for you because you're going to have a lot more dense muscle built up into shorter arms, which is going to be able to give you better grip strength, blah, 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 blah. But these guys are strikers. MVP has got 79 inches of reach to Shara Bullet 73. That's a 6-inch advantage, okay? MVP's reach is, he's 6'3", so he's 73 inches tall, and his reach is 79. He's got 6 inches positive reach over his height, okay? Whereas Shara Bullet has a 1-inch negative over his height. Oh no, sorry. So actually, I did that wrong. 6'5". 6'3" is 75 inches in height. Jesus Christ. Which is a 4-inch positive reach for Michael Venom Page. Shut up, phone. Michael Venom Page over his height. So it's a 5-inch reach advantage. Oh no, it is 6 inches. I'm doing my maths all fucked up wrong. Just ignore me. Just ignore me. It's 6 inches, but yes, it makes sense based on 5 inches positive for MVP, 4 inches positive for MVP, sorry, and 1 inch negative for Shara Bullet, but they're an inch apart in height. That's where the extra inch comes from. Sorry, I'm rambling. The biggest difference, however, though, aside from the massive reach advantage, which I think is going to play a big factor in this, is the weight class. Michael Venom Page is a welterweight. I'm going to look now. I don't know if he's ever fought at middleweight. Certainly not in the UFC. He may have earlier in his career. So he did fight a lot at 175 in Bellator by the looks of it, but he's never fought at 180 even. Oh, there we go, 185 back in 2013. This is before he had his first Bellator fight, and then he went and fought in a regional place at 185. Oh my god, shut up phone. Sorry guys. Allow me to just make this shut up. Cool, vibrate. So he's not built for this weight class at all. And he understands that. MVP has even said, this is a one-off. Regardless of the result of this fight, I'm not staying at this weight class. Okay, I'm going back down to 170 after this. And that's fair. People say, why would you even accept the fight then? This is a big fight. This is a very high-level marketing opportunity for MVP, especially being that he's 37 years old. He's got a big opportunity to put on a money-making fight for himself here, and I'm sure the UFC is paying him quite decently to move up a weight class. And I believe the taxes are quite good when you fight over in the UAE, or not UAE, but in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia and in the UAE. So that weight class is going to lead me to make my pick. So I think, as I mentioned, they have similar fight styles. However, the path to victory is different for them. I think if we're going to see an MVP win, it's going to be by finish. Okay, I can see MVP beating Shara on the feet. Absolutely. I could see MVP beating Shara on the feet for almost the entire fight. The difference is that Shara is very kick heavy, essentially like almost Taekwondo exclusively when he fights. He uses his hands as well, but because he's got bad reach, it's not his main weapon. And that is very smart of him, whether it was by design or not, for him to have developed his fight style to not be dependent on his clearly lackluster genetic ability. Okay, don't bash me outside of a mall, please, for saying that, Shara. But the guy is very kick heavy. MVP is very punch heavy because he's got huge arms. Go figure. But if I see that both guys don't have good grappling. Okay, we saw Ian Gary out grapple MVP pretty badly in this fight, in their fight, but Ian Gary also did arguably better grappling Shavkat Rakhmonov in their fight after that. So that's another weird one. I don't know how you can do better against Shavkat Rakhmonov in real grappling than you did against Michael Venom Page. It was kind of the same, like takedowns, getting onto your back, trying to go for submissions, failing. But Shavkat has grappling credentials, if you want to call it that. MVP has none. So for Shavkat to have been somewhat almost submitted by Ian Gary is much more like, what the fuck, compared to MVP, where it's like, yeah, this guy's a kickboxer. I'm surprised he's not getting choked out here. Big difference. Polar opposites, in fact, of reactions to the fan base seeing Ian Gary's grappling against the guys. But we have also seen Shara Bullet be out-grappled by Bruno Silva. Badly. With almost, like, the only difference is that Shara does have the ability to throw up damage from his back, which I didn't really see MVP doing. It was all defense from MVP. Shara will just kind of posture up and try and throw elbows and hammer fists, or sideways hammer fists, or whatever you want to imagine. If you can throw it from your back with your hands, he will try and do it, that's for sure. I don't really think he throws up submissions from memory at all. He didn't try any submissions. He was just in full guard, just willing to try to slice Bruno Silva open a lot. The defining difference there, however, so they're both shit at grappling. The edge would go to Shara having some sense of ground and pound. Not ground and pound. Well, yeah, it's anti-ground and pound. Damage off your back when in grappling sequences. He has some ability in that, where we haven't seen that from MVP. However, we have seen MVP survive not even much better, actually good grapplers. Okay, in Ian Gary, who I don't like to say that, but Ian Gary's a pretty decent grappler. He trains with Charles Oliveira, so like that's to be expected. Whereas Shara Bullet got out grappled by Bruno Silva. But the difference is the one that Shara can throw up the damage off his back, and it is now at 185. Okay, MVP did okay in those grappling sequences, surviving at least with Ian Gary at 170. Okay, whereas Shara may have done shit against Bruno Silva, but it's at 185. Okay, and when they're both fighting at 185, it's not like MVP has just suddenly gained a bunch of weight, because he's not moving to this weight class. He's going straight back down to welterweight afterwards. This is just for fun. If anything, MVP might not really be cutting any weight. He probably weighs 190 outside of camp. I don't think MVP weighs that much at all. He's very, very tall and skinny. So, if we are to see MVP use his striking on the feet to outclass Shara, I certainly see Shara having the ability to, if he's not going to grapple MVP, he'll probably be able to get on top of MVP and ground and pound him without MVP having the capability to do the same in reverse. That is what I certainly see. So if MVP is getting pieced up on the feet, he doesn't have a backup plan. If Shara is to be getting pieced up on the feet, which is possible, and he's probably planning for that outcome, he has the ability to use his weight to his advantage and get on top of MVP. Now, so that's what I could see happening if MVP wins the striking. But if MVP is losing the striking, Shara kind of just wins. That's it. MVP will struggle to enforce any level of response. If Shara is just keeping him at distance, landing lots of low kicks, side kicks to the body, maybe spinning back kicks, whatever it's going to be. If he's going to be throwing up attempted head kicks or something like that, I feel like MVP will be somewhat, he'll have somewhat sound defense for that kind of stuff. But if he is exclusively relying on his ability to defend and just not get knocked out, he's going to lose a decision. So I could certainly, I feel like I may have said this. If I said this at the start of my prediction, I apologize, because I've flipped on it completely now. If I said that I think MVP can win a decision, I didn't mean that, but I'm pretty sure what I said is that I could see MVP knocking Shara out, but I don't see MVP winning a decision because of what I said about the grappling and stuff like that before. There's backup plans for Shara, there's not backup plans for MVP. But I can also see Shara winning a decision. I could also see Shara getting a finish. That is also a possibility. With the kicks, MVP isn't unfinishable. We've seen him knocked out before. It was, granted, a one-off thing, but he doesn't have an iron chin. He just is really good at not getting hit. I think he may have got clipped by Kevin Holland like once or twice, but as we've seen recently, Kevin doesn't really have that great power anymore, and if he did, MVP does have the ability to kind of roll with shots. So he could do that with Shara, but again, allow me to remind you, this is at 185. Shara has power that is somewhat shit for his division. Not non-existent, but definitely not to the level that you see plenty of middleweight knockouts occurring. Think about what Caio Borralho did to Jared Cannonier. You have not seen even a shade of that from Shara Bullet, but we have seen him whip out awkward techniques, like, for example, just a wacky spinning double back fist that knocks out Armen Petrosian. He did drop Anthony Tricoli quite badly with their left hook at the end of their fight. Granted, that took him fucking forever to get to, and it was like ridiculous how little offense Antonio Tricoli was offering, and for that to have taken Shara that long to get to that finish is worrying. But more recently in the Armen Petrosian fight, he's shown his ability to search for an unorthodox finish and get it. Do I think he's going to get an unorthodox finish over Michael Venom Page? Probably not. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think that MVP could get a finish over Shara Bullet? Yes. Do I think it's more possible than Shara Bullet getting a finish? Yes. So, my prediction for this one is going to be, I think that if it's going to be a finish, pretty much almost a very similar thing to what I said about the main event. But if I think it's going to be a finish, I could see... it's actually the inverse of the main event. I could see Michael Venom Page finishing Shara Bullet with just a really, really crisp shot. It's going to have to put him out, though, because I don't see MVP really chasing him to the ground and finishing him. He could do, but I don't know if that's really something he's going to be all that prepared for. However, my prediction is going to be this is probably a decision win for Shara Bullet. Okay, so that's the main event and co-main event. These are going to be the two fights that I yap about the most. We've still got a good 3 fights that are going to be fun to talk about on the main card. However, we are probably going to get through the rest of the card in just about as much time as we got through those first 2 fights. So let's jump onto the, I believe this is what you call the feature fight. Sergei Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Now, to me, the weapons that I see are Jairzinho's got a great jab. Really good jab. We saw him use that very well against Shamil Gaziev and against Hadzovic very effectively. And Pavlovich is Pavlovich and just is monstrous and will kill you. He's white Ngannou. To me. That's what I see. A bit less talented, but nonetheless a white Ngannou, pretty much. I would love to see Jairzinho Rozenstruik manage to take Pavlovich to a decision victory, which is how I would see him winning this fight. I would be fucking shocked if he knocked out Pavlovich. That would be mental, considering that Volkov didn't in their fight. However, that is not my prediction, and it's far from it. Okay? That would be my preference. I'd love to see Rozenstruik do that and get himself back up to the top. I think Rozenstruik would get dominated by the rest of the division, but it'd be fun to see regardless. But speaking of Rozenstruik being dominated, that is what I think is going to happen. It's similar to the Ngannou fight. Like I said, Pavlovich being like a white Ngannou. I think that Rozenstruik will just be... So the Taito fight and the Gaziev fight are against guys that are just not the same size. So if we have a quick look here, Jairzinho himself is 6'2", okay? Which he doesn't look like, but his reach is 78 inches. So Taito Ivasa is, I believe, 6'1", or he's 6'2" as well, with 75 inches of reach. And Shamil Gaziev is 6'4", apparently, I don't know if I believe that, with 78.5 inches of reach. Pavlovich is pretty much the same, 6'3", with 84 inches of reach. He's obviously got the Ngannou reach, which is like the comparison I'm making. Height-wise, he's about the same. But I just don't see Pavlovich needing to sit with Rozenstruik the same way others do. I can really, really see Pavlovich just loading the fuck up, whether it's on one shot or 6 in attempts to hope to land one, the same way that Ngannou did, where he just swung for the fucking fences. Granted, that's not what I see Pavlovich doing, but I certainly could see him winning that way. That's undoubtedly possible. He's been finished by Volkov, he lost to Blades and Kaan. To me, Rozenstruik beats the guys that you should beat. And Pavlovich is not a guy that you should beat, unfortunately. He's not. He's on a 2-fight loss streak now as well. He got knocked out by Aspinall and then beat by Volkov, so there's going to be a lot of... If there's ever going to be a time for Pavlovich to make a comeback, it's now. Rozenstruik has already kind of begun his comeback and been on it a little bit, you know, in the Gaziev fight and the Taito Ivasa fight. So I don't see the same level of motivation as I see for Pavlovich. Granted, that's not really that much of a factor. It's just something I want to point out. But I really do think that Pavlovich is just going to have the ridiculous pop and the ridiculous swing with that reach advantage being 84 to, 78, 6 inches reach advantage. He's got a 1-inch height advantage. I think that Rozenstruik is just going to have to, and he's 36, Rozenstruik. Pavlovich is 32. Rozenstruik is going to have to put himself in the fucking flames to be even capable of using his jab well or anything like that. So to me, he's going to have to be in danger for so long. I would be fucking shocked if Pavlovich doesn't knock him out. So to me, I see that happening. It could be a round 1, honestly. Like, Pavlovich probably is due for a return to his previous performances, which were all round 1 finishes. Literally, his entire career is 15 first-round TKOs and then 3 decisions. And he's been knocked out twice, and they were both in the first round. He's lost 1 decision, and that was to Volkov. But besides that, it's all been round 1 finishes. I don't see Biggie Boy being the one guy that could take him to a 2nd or 3rd round before getting finished. I feel like if Pavlovich is going to be able to finish you, he will do it early. Granted, if we make it to a 2nd or 3rd round, I would see then Rozenstruik being the one who would be able to take control of the pressure and the pace and stuff like that and work his game plan. But I think it's going to be a Pavlovich knockout in the 1st round, unfortunately. Okay, so the next fight on the chopping block is Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. I believe that Vinicius Oliveira is very fucking dangerous. Now we're going to look at the tail of the tape here. So we've got a 1 inch height advantage for Vinicius Oliveira they've got the same reach. 32 is how old Said is, and 29 is how old Vinicius is. So they're not really that far apart in terms of tail of the tape statistics. Pretty fucking similar. Now, Vinicius is really, really dangerous and very, very knockout prone or damage prone. However, and he's got 16 knockouts in his career and out of his 21 wins. So that's mental. Said, however, is 18 wins with a lot of decisions, 8 decisions, 6 submissions, and 4 knockouts. I believe that if Said wins this, he will probably lock in something like just a nasty guillotine, or he's got 3 guillotines in the fucking UFC, for God's sake. So I could certainly see that being his path to victory. He does have a knockout in the UFC as well, but it's all been guillotines and decisions. So if I guess I fucking picked the right submission to call for there. But that's not going to be my pick. As much as I see that being possible and the likely path to victory for Said, Vinicius, there's something about him, man. I love the striking. I feel like credential isn't the right prowess that he presents, and the just awkwardness of his. He gives me very like the MVP vibes in the way that he shoots his shots. He doesn't necessarily point fight the same way, but he does give me the awkwardness of like the low hands and like just like, oh, like what am I gonna fucking do? Like you got no idea where these are coming from type shit. But that is something that Said has kind of struggled with. He fought Jonathan Martinez, who is a good leg kicker, which I believe was what kind of got Said hurt in that fight. Let me look it up. Versus Martinez, UFC stats. That could be wrong, but I just want to double check it. It seems as though in that fight, wherever it is, Said was actually ahead on strikes, to be fair. Jonathan Martinez got him on control time, to be honest. Said got the grappling, the takedowns, but he was ahead on the striking numbers there. So that's quite interesting. Hey, Said did really well in the first and second round. He did well in every round. That is weird. I do remember that fight, and from memory, it's a unanimous decision, and it wasn't like that was insane of a call. So that is weird. But I wanted to check what were leg kicks. So Martinez landed 18 of 22 leg kicks on him. Yeah, he really targeted the legs there. Vinicius certainly will throw leg kicks, but that's not what he's looking for. That knockout. He's looking for that brutal knockout, and he's gotten a knockout over a good guy in Bernardo Sapage, which at first seemed like just somewhat of a can that he knocked out, and then Bernardo Sapage came back and just fucking mauled whoever it was that he just fought in his last fight, Ricky Tercios. He fucking brutalized Ricky Tercios with his power, which is something I wasn't quite expecting. So I'm going to go ahead and say here, Said could get the submission, but my prediction is going to be it could be a decision, and if it goes to a decision, I would maybe favor Said to have the ability to control Vinicius and nullify him in that way with the grappling, even if he doesn't get a finish. So, but I believe that Vinicius is going to continue his streak here, and he's going to go to 3-0 in the UFC, 1 in the Contender Series, with a knockout over Said Nurmagomedov, which has never happened before. Said ain't never been knocked out before, so I'm not making a call that's got much statistics to back it up, but something in me feels like that's going to be a possibility here. So I'm going to say Vinicius Oliveira. Let's go with a... what kind? I kind of want to say punches, because he got that knee knockout. He's got head kicks on his record and stuff, but I think it's just going to be simple. It's going to be a simple boxing exchange that just either... I don't think it will necessarily KO Said cold, but it'll begin a finishing exchange or sequence where the ref steps in after he sees enough damage from Vinicius. Maybe Said gets knocked down quite badly, tries to kind of throw up grappling, but Vinicius just either doesn't engage in the grappling in the way that Said wants and is able to land a bit of ground and pound. Think of like a Ryan Hall, Ilya Topuria thing where like Ryan tried to throw up his grappling at the end when he got hurt, but like Ilya jumps in quick enough to like get you stuck in a position that he can beat the fuck out of you on the ground without you grappling him. Or just a standard TKO from Vinicius Oliveira. I'm going to go ahead and say that would probably be in the... I don't think first round. He's got a lot of first round finishes, but I reckon second round from Vinicius Oliveira by TKO. Okay, next up we have Mike Davis versus Fares Ziam. Now, this one's a bit weirder. I haven't seen a whole lot of these guys fight, seen a little bit. From what I can tell, Fares Ziam is just an overall dangerous, long kind of guy. Mike Davis has got some nice boxing, and I believe he got a good submission in his last fight. I say good, it was okay. Nathan Levy just didn't really defend intelligently at all, and Mike Davis has been choked out by Gilbert Burns, so it's not like it's a great part of his game plan. However, there is pretty much a overall advantage for Fares Ziam here in he is younger, 27 versus 32. He is taller, 6'1 versus 6 foot, and he has longer reach, 72.5 versus 75. So pretty much every area of the tail of the tape would lead me to edge towards Fares Ziam. Pause, I'm not edging towards Fares Ziam, but you know what I mean. However, I certainly like what I've seen from the striking of Mike Davis, but I feel like Fares Ziam is just a little bit too dangerous and a little bit too tough to necessarily... I just don't see a great path to victory for Mike Davis. This is about where the card starts to get less intelligible, just so you guys know. This is where I'm going to be making my guesses a lot more based off the few fights of these guys I have seen. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think that Fares Ziam gets this one possibly by knockout, maybe by a decision over Mike Davis. Okay, final main card fight. So we have Muhammad Naimov versus Kaan Ofli. Now, I don't like what I've seen from Muhammad Naimov, really at all. And I do like what I've seen from the small amount that I've seen of Kaan Ofli. He's only had one UFC... Oh no, this is the guy that got knocked out by Marian Santos. Not the guy that Marian Santos... Not the guy that got the knockout. Shit. Okay, this is the guy that lost the Ultimate Fighter finale. I was thinking it's the guy that won it. Fuck. In which case, Naimov has more UFC experience. He's got 3 wins in the UFC. Shit, I was thinking that this was Marion Santos. This is not. This is Kaan Ofli, the guy he knocked out. I'm probably gonna have to choose Muhammad Naimov purely based on UFC experience in this one, I think. Finishing capabilities are high for Naimov, so are they for Kaan Ofli though. Lots more knockouts for Naimov versus submissions for Ofli. The records Ofli has been fighting are not good in his regional career. For Naimov, they're also quite fucking bad. Neither guy really fought great competition before the UFC. Some losses on Naimov's record before the UFC. Same for Ofli though. He's losing on the Australian regionals to guys that don't have great record. What's this guy? This guy was 2-0 when he beat him. He's a 15-3 boxer now. What the fuck? You know what? That's a really good loss for this guy to have. Who the fuck is this? Isaac Hardman, hey? That's an interesting athlete to keep an eye on. Never heard of him, but he's got a big fucking... Yeah, anyway, that's irrelevant. Yeah. And Naimov's losses are to this 4-0 and this 7-1 guy who are now 8-2 and 9-6. Yeah, you lost a... Oh, this guy literally went on a 1, 2, 3, 4... Oh my god, he got into the UFC afterwards as well. Got knocked out multiple times directly after his Naimov fight. It was in the Contender Series that he lost, to be fair. And this guy, Naimov, fought in Titan FC. And after he beat Naimov, gets a win and loses to Cairns, man. Loses to Cairns after that. I think I'm going to, purely based on resume, okay, almost entirely based on resume, that's what a few of these picks are going to be. I haven't enjoyed what I've seen of Naimov, just in general anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Kaan Ofli for this one. Fuck it. Yep. Probably a decision. I don't really think any guy's really that capable of getting finishes. So I say that. Naimov's got finishes. He got a leg injury finish in his last win, and his win before that was over Jamie Malarkey. So it's not really that hard to finish Jamie Malarkey. I'm gonna say Kaan Ofli by decision. Okay, below that, so the people's main event: Shamil the Blob Gaziev. Shamil the Blob Gaziev versus Thomas Petersen. Now I don't know if I've even seen Thomas Petersen fight before. I have. He's the guy that beat Muhammad Usman. Yes. I do remember that. That was not a great fight from memory. This was after he lost to Mick Parkin. Yep. Thomas Petersen. Don't like that look for you. And you've got a lot of fucking first round finishes. To be fair to you, that's a pretty impressive resume of finishes he's got. But they're over fucking cans until he got to the LFA, where he started to fight some decent competition, but not the best. He got finished by Waldo Cortez Acosta, which is also not good. Not good. So Shamil's got one loss, and it was to Rozenstruik. And like I said when I was talking about Rozenstruik versus Pavlovich, it was because he had a great jab, and he just kind of kept Gaziev fucked up for like a big long fight. Gaziev just beat Dontel Mays from memory. That was shit. That was a shit fight. But before that, he did get 2 finishes. It was Martin Bidet, who, granted, he was only the second guy to beat him, but he's only got 2 losses. And Martin Bidet had a split decision with Arlovsky, though. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say I think that Shamil gets this one done. I feel like it's going to be probably still a decision, however. But I'm going to say that it goes to Shamil Gaziev by decision. Okay, below that one. Now, this is a weird one because I know both these guys, but I haven't even watched one of these other guys fight except for, I believe, one fight that I know of, which was his fight against Hanato Moicano, and that was in 2020. So this is Terrance McKinney versus Damir Hadzovic. Terrance McKinney is the guy who, if you don't knock him out, he will knock you out. If he doesn't knock you out, you will knock him out. So let's just quickly reel through Terrance McKinney's UFC career because it's fucking hilarious. So, gets into the UFC. Knocks out Matt Bivol in the first round. Knocks out Fares Ziam in the first round. Gets knocked out by Drew Dober in the first round. Knocks out Eric Gonzalez in the first round. Gets knocked out by Ismail Bonfim in the second round. Gets knocked out by Nazim Sadikov in the second round. I believe that's literally the only 2 times he's been to a second round in his career besides his Contender Series appearance and his 4th ever fight. So, yeah, and then he knocks out Mike Breeden in the first round, knocks out Brandon Marotte in 20 seconds, a bit of a return to his normal form of getting really fast finishes. And Mike Breeden was in 1:25 as well. And then he fought Esteban Ribovic and got knocked out in 40 seconds by Esteban Ribovic. So, I believe he is going to either knock Damir Hadzovic out or probably get finished by Damir in like the second round. Damir doesn't have finishes really in the UFC. Oh, he does have a couple actually. He's got 2 finishes in the UFC, lots of decisions. He's been knocked out once in the UFC, lost a decision, won a split, lost a unanimous, won a unanimous, lost a unanimous. And this was all between the years of 2016 to 2022. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019, 2019, and then one fight a year in 2020, 2021. And 2022, and he has not fought since then. So he was meant to fight Balaji Oki in February last year, and apparently he had visa issues. But it has still been 3 fucking years since Damir fought, and he's like 38 years old. So Terrance McKinney being 30 years old, and having literally fought in May last year, and before that October, and then in the same year in August, and then the same year in July, the same year in January. He is active, he is young, and he has got the capabilities. In terms of tailor the tape, Terrance is 5'10", not 5'1", 5'10", with a 73.5-inch reach. Damir is 5'9", with a 70. So the height, reach, and age all go to Terrance McKinney. And the recency of activity also goes to Terrance McKinney. They're both coming off losses, but it was a long time ago when it was literally 3 years ago that Damir Hadzovic lost. McKinney is coming off a KO loss, but he's been gone for almost a year, so he's had plenty of time to recover from it. I am going to say that purely just based on Damir being 38 and him being gone for 3 years, and McKinney being really dangerous and finish capable, Damir having been knocked out once and submitted once is somewhat in his favor, but it's still I'm still led to believe that Terrance McKinney is going to knock out Damir Hadzovic. I think he might last into the second round. We'll see if McKinney just decides to fucking go balls to the wall for the first 60 seconds looking for a finish. He might do, but I feel like Damir is probably going to come back quite prepared, knowing that he's had all this time and he's been out for so long. He's not going to be unprepared, that's for sure. He might simply not be capable anymore, but he's not going to be unprepared. But my prediction is going to be for Terrance McKinney to knock him out in the second round. If I'm going to pick how, I reckon he gets just nasty, maybe overhand. Just a real nasty overhand shot or straight shot down the middle for McKinney. He's got real good pop on his power hand. So that's going to be my prediction. Okay, below that, we have a female fight to break up the fun of the event. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but especially when it's Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Mayra Bueno Silva. I'm not really looking forward to it that much. I don't hate Mayra Bueno Silva, but God, that title fight against Raquel was bad. Her fight against Macy Chiasson in her last fight was quite fun. Did enjoy that one. So she's not the worst as far as female fighters go. Jasudavicius is not good. She's just flat out not good. She has won a lot of fights. She literally has 2 finishes in the UFC, one over Priscilla Cachoeira, who is dog shit, and another one in her last fight, which was in November last year, over Ariane Lipski da Silva, who is got 10 losses on her record. So, and she's been, to be fair, that's the first time she was ever been submitted. I'll give you that. But she's been knocked out 4 times before that and lost 5 decisions. She's 17-10. So not great for that to be the fucking people that you've got finishes over. Jasmine Jasudavicius. You fought Fatima Klein in between those and beat her, but didn't get a finish over her. You lost to Tracy Cortez. You beat Miranda Maverick, which is a good one. You lost to Natalia Silva, which is a good loss to have. Oh, wait, no, is that the same Natalia Silva? I think it is. It is, yeah. That's a good loss to have, but still. And you lost to Elise Reed when she was 1-0. That is not good. That's back in 2020. Elise Reed is now in the UFC, to be fair, but she's 4-4 in the UFC and 8-0 overall. 8-4 overall. So yeah, not good. Just overall, Jasmine Jasudavicius, and allow me to tell you, like I said, her only 2 finishes are those 2. Let's just reel through her UFC, just her career overall. Actually, fuck it. Rear naked choke win, decision win. Second round rear naked choke win, decision win. Round 1 body shots, round 1 knees. Loses a split decision to Elise Reed. It's split, but it's Elise Reed. Decision win. This is on her contender series. Now she's in the UFC. Decision win in the UFC. Decision lost in the UFC. Decision win. Decision loss. And then she gets that DAS over Priscilla Cachoeira. Decision win over Fatima Klein. And then she gets the DAS over Ariane Lipski da Silva. Mayra Bueno Silva has a really ugly record, which is fucking 10-4-1 and 1. She's got 5 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, and 1 no contest. Fucking disgusting record. She was 6-0 before her first loss. She came into the UFC 4-0. And listen to this. Round 1 ninja choke. Round 1 armbar. Decision loss. Round 1 armbar. Draw. Decision loss. Decision win. Round 1 armbar. Round 2 knee bar. No contest to Holly Holm because she popped for steroids after she got a ninja choke in the second round. Raquel Pennington, unanimous decision loss. Macy Chiasson, doctor stoppage second round loss. Ugly fucking record, dude. Plagued with a no contest, a draw, a doctor stoppage loss, multiple decision losses, including a 5-rounder to Raquel fucking Pennington. I don't love it at all. I really don't. And she used to fight at flyweight, and she had lost at flyweight to Montana De La Rosa was the draw, and that was at flyweight, right? Yep, and she lost to Manon Fiora at flyweight, decided to move up a weight class. Got finishes in that weight class, sure, but then fucking her last 3 fights are questionable. Great against Holly Holm. It's Holly Holm, and you pops for steroids. Then you lost to Raquel, and then you got a doctor stoppage in a fun fight, but it's a fucking doctor stoppage. It looks bad on your record. However, like I've complained a lot about Jasmine Jasudavicius, as I've complained a lot about Jasmine Jasudavicius, I'm going to pick Mayra Bueno Silva to get this one done. I just don't see it really. I believe Jasmine Jasudavicius does a lot of grappling. She's 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Mayra is 5'6" with a 66.5. It's minimal difference, about an inch both areas for Jasmine. They're both about the same age, 33 for Bueno Silva, 35 for Jasudavicius. But I am going to give the edge to... this is back at flyweight. I'm 100% picking Mayra Bueno Silva. This is back at flyweight. Yeah, she's proven that she is somewhat decent at bantamweight and can hang with top people at bantamweight. And she's going back to flyweight now. Yeah. Jasmine Jasudavicius. I was going to say decision win by Mayra Bueno Silva. I think Bueno Silva's... I forgot Jasmine's at flyweight. Duh, fucking idiot. Yeah. Mayra is going to submit Jasmine Jasudavicius, I reckon. That's what's going to be my prediction. Let's say second round. All right, last 2 fights. Literally going to flip coins for these 2 because I've never heard of either of them. I believe that all 4 of these guys are fresh signees. Let's have a look. So first of all is Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander. Now Bogdan Grad is making his UFC debut after his Contender Series win. Okay, fair enough. Lucas Alexander has been in the UFC. He got choked out by Brito, beat Steven Petersen, and then lost to Jeka Saragi, who I've never fucking heard of. This is in 2023. And he missed weight for a catch weight. I'm guessing, no. That can't be right. He must have missed weight and then they fought at a catch weight. That's my guess. 148 when he's fighting at 145, right? Yeah. Bogdan Grad is 14-2. Lucas Alexander... Lucas Alexander is 8-4. Bogdan Grad has lots of finishes over okay competition. What I'm seeing, I don't hate it. I like the array of finishes I'm seeing here: punches, leg kicks, punches, Kimura, ground and pound, standing guillotine, spinning heel kick, flying knee, guillotine. Wow. That's a fucking bingo card of a record there of finishes. Lucas Alexander, however, has 5 decision wins in his 8 wins in his career. He's got a referee stoppage, is what it says, is how he won this fight. Doesn't even say whether it's a... Okay. Like what kind of... And the other one just says KO TKO, and the other one says injury. So... And he doesn't have any submissions. He's been submitted 3 times as well. Bogdan Grad has been knocked out once and lost 1 decision. Okay, well, I've got someone I know I'm interested in, Bogdan Grad. I'm keen to... Oh, and he lost to... So Bogdan Grad fought on the Contender Series in 2023 against Tom Nolan. Got knocked out by Tom Nolan. I've actually seen that knockout. I don't remember who Bogdan Grad is. I have seen that Tom Nolan Contender Series knockout, but his face is not reminding me of what he looked like or anything like that. But... He got back onto the Contender Series after 2 kind of cans that he fought, but he did flying knee them and then guillotine them. So, and then he got a 9-1 opponent in the Contender Series who he got a split decision over, being Michael Aswell, who is now 10-2. He's since fought in Fury, got a unanimous decision win, blah, 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 blah. Okay, any names I recognize on Bogdan Grad's record from his regional scene? No. Okay, I don't recognize anyone there. What about in... Oh, no, that's Lucas Alexander's record. I don't recognize anyone on Lucas Alexander's record. Do I recognize anyone on Bogdan Grad's record in the regional scene? I do not. Okay, that's okay. Oh, and he's got an eclectic fucking amateur career. Weird. Really weird. He's fighting in world championships, to be fair, so this is a lot of... this is like events where you fight a lot on the same day. But he's got 3 wins, a loss, a win, a loss, 2 wins, a loss, win, loss, 2 wins, loss, no contest. Don't know why that's a no contest. Tell me why it's a no contest. It's a no contest because undisclosed. Cool. No one knows. But, so he was 9 and 6? 9 and 5 as an amateur. Not great, but not terrible. Again, knockouts, head kicks, punches, triangle choke. Another just collection of interesting techniques that he's clearly capable of. I like the look of this guy, and I'm excited to see this fight now, which I wasn't before. It's the second prelim of the night. I'm going to go ahead and pick Bogdan Grad. Let's be egregious with this one. Fuck it. And I'm going to say, considering how many early finishes he's got, I'm going to say round 1 he knocks out Lucas Alexander. I've not seen him fight, so this is going to be a Hail Mary, but let's make a guess on the technique as well. He's done some real fun shit. Lucas Alexander has been knocked out by a right hook and punches in his last fight. He's been rear naked choked as well. I am going to say he gets caught with a check hook. Fuck it. Let's say that. Bogdan Grad, check hook knockout over Lucas Alexander. Let's say first round. Then the last fight. So this is another one. I don't recognize any guys. Is this heavyweight? This is a heavyweight fight. Jamal Pogues, I believe, has already been in the UFC. Yep. He's been on the Contender Series twice. He won, and then they said not good enough, and then he went and got heel hooked by someone in the LFA, who, to be fair, was 5-0. So that's not bad, and that guy is now 11-4 now. So I mean, it's not the worst, but he did go to Bellator and fight Yoel Romero and Impa Kasagane. Never mind, that's actually really good of a guy for a Jamal Pogues to have fought, and lost. He went 4 rounds with that guy, lost in the 4th round, and then he beats a guy by decision in the LFA, gets back on the Contender Series, wins a decision, beats Josh Parisian by a decision. That's the guy that Rebellis de Spain knocked out when he had his UFC debut, so that's kind of shit for him to go to a decision with that guy, but they're both Porkingtons. This guy is 6'3", 77 inches of reach. Oh my god. 77 inches of reach at heavyweight is not good, man. That's really bad. 29 years old, though. He's young. I'll give him that. And he also fought in Bellator. Does that say Bellator? He got 1 loss in Bellator. Yep, fair. Jordan Young. I feel like I know that guy. 12-2. He has fought no one I recognize. That's fine. He's in the PFL now. But, yeah, Jamal Pogues. Okay, so that's his experience. He lost to Mick Parkin. I do remember that. I don't remember the fight, but I do remember this guy fought Mick Parkin. And then he beat Thomas Petersen in his last fight by decision. And now he's getting this Hamdy Abdel Wahab, who is a Egyptian guy, 32 years old, 6'2", 73 inches. He's got negative reach. I can even tell by this photo. He's got fucking T-Rex arms, man. He's 6'2" with 73 inches of reach. He's got 1 inch negative reach over his height. 1 inch negative ape index. And Jamal Pogues' ape index is 73 inches tall. He's 4 inches positive. Yeah. This Hamdy guy is 3-0, so he's not fought very much. Oh, he's fought in the UFC, though. He's had his first UFC fight, and it was against Dontel Mays. He got a split decision win, and he failed a drug test by USADA back in 2022. And he's been gone for fucking 3 years. He had a grappling match last year and got choked out. He's 32, and he hasn't fought since he was fucking 29. Aside from his MMA career, I mean, he's had 2 bare knuckle fights that he won by first round KO, and this was the start of his career. His professional career, he was a amateur MMA fighter before that, 4-1, fighting a quite decent competition there, to be fair. Wins those bare knuckle fights, fights a 4-4 guy, fights a 3-2 guy, and fights an 0-0 guy, and they led him into the fucking UFC, and he got a split decision over Dontel Mays. Jamal Pogues, you've got experience, you've got wins in the UFC. I don't like either of these guys' records at all, but I'm going to go ahead and say I think Jamal Pogues gets it done probably by a decision, considering Jamal Pogues has got 7 decisions in his 15-fight career. Yeah, that's going to be my prediction. Guys, that brings us to the end of the video. This has been a very long one as usual. I'm just going to stop complaining about it, to be honest now. Maybe at the end of the videos I'm still going to mention it like I am right now. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay guys, going to try and speed it up, because I say that every time and then I realize that this is an early prelim fight and I've been talking about it for 6 minutes. So it is what it is. If I get carried away and I get chatty, I get chatty. This is the way that I'm going to learn. This is the way that I'm going to get better, okay? This is genuinely how... Let me lock in for a second here, okay? I'll get to the outro in a moment, okay? This is how I am getting better at understanding, I guess you'd call it lore of the MMA world. Just not even just UFC, but just the more I do this, essentially, by the way, I've just been sat on Tapology throughout this whole video, using that for my statistics and stuff to go off of, and UFC stats when I was talking about fight striking numbers and stuff like that. On my streams, my fight companions just sit here and research a lot of stuff, and it's the way that I am learning fighters. It's the way that I'm picking up names. It's the way that I'm realizing this guy, oh, wow, I see him on a prelim, and I'm like, I barely know him. I've seen him fight one name that I know before. That was last year. He's fighting again now. I wonder if it'll be an interesting fight. And then I sit here on my stream and go, okay, well, his fight's coming up next. Let's look at his record. And I go, oh my god, he's been in the UFC for 7 years. Oh my god, he had a 5-fight win streak at one point. Wow, this guy knocked out prime fucking Corey Sandhagen or something. You know, just whatever, an example. Oh my god, this guy was the guy who ended the win streak of Jim Miller at one point or something. Like, it just is interesting to find that stuff out. And so I really can't help but fucking point out the fact that this Hamdy Abdullah Wahab guy looks exactly like Mizkif, if you know who that is, the fucking Twitch streamer. It is uncanny. I can't look at that. It's fucking making me laugh. This is the way that I get better at it. So I'm going to continue to do so, because I just learn the background of a lot of these fighters. You find so many people who have fought each other before, and you're like, wow, this guy fought... people that made it to the UFC... He fought in the regional scenes and beat them, and he's only just getting to the UFC now because he ran into some rough fights later on in his regional career where the other guys managed to build a streak and get to the UFC. Lots of weird shit like that happens in the world of MMA, man, especially in like the regional American scene and regional Brazilian scene. You see a shit ton of overlap in guys fighting each other and then meeting up later on in the UFC for a rematch or something. Or they go on to beat somebody that it's like, wait, he beat that guy in his second UFC fight, and that guy is since that one loss has been on a 5-fight win streak. What's going on there? That's a pretty good, this win has aged really well. This win has aged really bad, you know. So this is how I get better. Just by sitting here. I'm going to continue to make prediction videos so long as it's for a card that I am confident in knowing majority of the fighters in. It was literally only the last 2 fights in this card that I didn't know the fighters. I didn't know Thomas Petersen, who Shamil's fighting. I didn't know Mike Davis, who's fighting for Ziam, but I'd heard of him and I watched a little bit of his just highlights before. Everyone else I knew. Bar Damir Hadzovic, who I knew of, just haven't... Sorry, excuse me, fucking hell. I knew of, I just haven't watched because he's been gone for 3 fucking years. He's been gone since before I was watching the sport. If you want to use that as well to understand why I like doing this stuff to learn and get better at predictions and stuff. His last fight was in 2022 in July. I wasn't even watching the UFC at that point. I started watching the UFC like 2022, like September or something like that. I started my channel like 6 months after I started watching the UFC. I've now been watching the UFC for, what is it? 2 and a bit years, and I've had my channel for just about 2 years. In next month it'll be 2 years. So literally I've got so much more experience in the UFC while I've had this channel. So bear with me if my content is literally live learning, because that is what it is, and I'm enjoying it. So I hope it's not bad to watch, but I am more than happy to accept being wrong on shit constantly, because I don't claim to be good at it. I feel like I've gotten very good very fast at talking about the high level fights, like, well, not high level, like high priority, I guess you would say, like the big ticket fights, the big names, pretty much any ranked fighter you can name I've watched. Like, there's no ranked fighters in many divisions that I haven't watched. I might not know about their career, but I mean, a year ago there was plenty of top 15 guys in almost every division that I'd be like, never heard of him. Never fucking heard of him. So we're getting there slowly, and I think I am getting better, and this is the way to do it. So I hope you guys did enjoy. This is going to be a really fun event. I'm fucking excited for it. Because it's in Saudi Arabia, it is at, I believe it's at 1 a.m. my time it starts. Yes, so the prelims start at 1 a.m. and the main card starts at 4 a.m. my time. So that's going to be, as much as that might sound like that's shitty for me, that's better for me. That makes my life easier, because it's much easier for me to just stay up all night watching a card than it is to wake up all groggy with fucking 4 hours sleep so that I can watch the main, or so that I can not even watch the main card. The issue is waking up and then having to catch up with the last 3 hours of fights of prelims that I was asleep during, because the prelims will start at 10 a.m. my time or something, and I'll wake up at like 11 or something, and then I'm having to, between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. when the main card starts, or whatever it is, I'm having to catch up on fights as the fights are happening, which leads me to then have to go back and re-watch fights that happened way earlier in the day on stream, which I don't really want to do. I will do it because that's better than just not watching the event and being completely uninformed on what has happened previously, but I much prefer just being able to sit and watch these fights. So I probably won't be live at the very start of the event, just because that's going to, one, make me really tired for the main event, which I don't want to be, because I will have been on stream for like 6 hours by then. And two, like I said, some of these earlier fights, not shit, just not big ticket names. Bogdan, Grad, and Lucas Alexander, while I'm excited to watch it, I won't be streaming for it. And obviously the first fight, like I said, Hamdy versus Pogues. And then Jasmine, Jasudavicius, but Mayra, Bueno, Silva, I'll be watching it, won't be live for it. I'd say around the Terrance, McKinney / Ziam fights. Those are probably where you can expect me to jump on and start watching the event live from. So, and that'll be at like 3 a.m. my time. So that'll be fun. And I'm very excited for this card. It's pretty fucking stacked, as I said at the start. It's essentially just great from the Ziam fight on. The Shamil Gaziev fight and the Naimov fight, Naimov versus Ofli. Those two fights have the chance to kind of bog up the card there. We could get awesome Ziam, Mike Davis, and awesome Terrance McKinney and Damir Hadzovic performances, followed by dogshit Gaziev, Petersen, followed by dogshit Naimov, Ofli. But then, even if that does happen, I'm very confident that Saeed versus Vinicius, Pavlovich versus Rozenstruik, Shara Bullet versus MVP, and Izzy versus Imavov is going to be all really good fights. So there is solid fights on this card that I am almost dead confident it's impossible for these to be boring. So I hope you guys are excited for this event as much as I am. Be sure to chuck on notifications so that you do not miss 1, uploads, and 2, the live streams. So as I'm talking about the Fight Companion, be sure to join me for it, and if your notifications are on, you will be notified. I think they tell you half an hour before the stream starts, because I do schedule the streams so that you guys can see when they're going to start, and you'll be notified when the stream starts as well. So I'd love to have you guys there. Please join me. It'll be very fun to watch with you, and you get to see all my reactions live. You don't have to A, go back and watch the live stream after the event, or B, wait for a reaction video that I edit together 5 days later, 4 days later to come out on the channel. I'd love to have you there. Having chat, give input is very fun. In my last live stream at UFC 311, we had a lot of chat interaction. It was mainly from a couple of guys, but that's all that matters, is that the couple of people in there giving any interaction gives me more than just my input of readings, records, and watching the fights to go off of. There is something to bounce off, and there is something to fill in moments where I don't necessarily have a great idea of how to fill dead air, which I'm going to say I'm bad at, but I feel like I'm somewhat decent at it because I do it for like 5 hours of the live stream, or 3-4 hours, however long a live stream is. When there's no fights on, I just got to sit here and fucking yap like I'm doing now, and it gets tiring. My voice gets sore, my throat gets sore, as it is right now from talking for an hour and a half to you guys here. But I hope to see you all there. It will be very fun. Leave a like, subscribe, Check out the second channel as well, guys. Mixed Martial Plus is now more than just gaming. There is still gaming on that channel, but there is a lot of clips there now. So I'm gonna do things like watching. I've made some videos of watching MMA gurus' reactions to some stuff. I've done a video of watching a clip of Aiden Ross and Islam Makhachev grappling together, and so on. There will be more things like that. Just watching pseudo MMA content that isn't directly UFC based, but it is adjacent to that. Talking about news, I'm going to clip things from the live stream and put them on there. So as well, if you like the live streams but you can't sit around to watch them, second channel is where you will be able to find clips that I might take from that, where I talk about something interesting, or they announce a new card during the event, and then I give my immediate reaction to that on stream. Gets clipped, goes on that channel. Guys, thank you for being here. I will stop yapping now. Please join me for the live stream. I'd love to have you there. Leave a like, subscribe, chuck on notifications, and I'll see you guys all in the next Mixed Martial Arts video. Goodbye.